Tulane running back Tyjae Spears is set to make some noise at the Senior Bowl in a couple of weeks, and today we're going to take a look at his draft profile to see where you should be taking him in rookie drafts this spring. Let's get into it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to 2023 NFL Draft Profiles. We've been doing these for a couple of months now, so make sure you like, subscribe, hit those notifications too. We put out a video every day. We skipped Tuesday. This was supposed to come out Tuesday. I was a little late, but I'm glad you guys are here watching this today. So if you like what you hear, make sure you hit that like button. Today, we're going to be talking about Tulane running back Tyjae Spears. Now, Tyjae is, I'll just preface with, he's one of my favorite studies thus far. I've watched over 100 guys right now. And I had so much fun watching Tyjae Spears. Today we're going to talk about him by the numbers, a little bit of a scouting report for him. I don't have a really good NFL comp for him just yet because I think there's one that's being thrown around, and I think he might be a little better than that. But let's get into it. So Tyjae Spears by the numbers, 4.55 yards after contact per attempt. This is so that ranks fifth in the nation, and he had over 1,000 yards after contact this year, which was good for also fifth. So 1,052. He had 19 touchdowns, which I didn't put on here, but I thought that would be something that people like. Touchdowns are good. But the main thing here is you're going to see a lot of concerns about his size, and we're going to get into that in the scouting report. But this kid breaks tackles, and he did it at an insanely high rate in 2022, 90.6 PFF rushing grade. So, I mean, overall, that's in the top 20-ish, I believe. Yeah, so he's sitting at 18 in PFF rushing grade. But just a remarkable season for Tulane, and he went off against USC. Everyone kind of saw it on a national stage, which was awesome. Tulane was good this year, and most of the reason was Tyjae Spears. They did have some pieces around there, but he was the offense. He was the engine that made that offense go, and I think it's really impressive that he was able to do that. So did Pro Football Focus. 1,837 all-purpose yards. So the reason I wanted to highlight all-purpose yards is because Tyjae Spears is a really good receiving back, and we're going to get into that in the scouting report. But he had 1,500 yards rushing, almost 1,600 yards rushing, and added 300 on the ground or through the air. So just a very effective receiver, and not just dump offs, and not just screen passes and things like that. He runs routes upfield, and he makes contested catches and difficult catches like that. So he's definitely a guy that we'll talk about the fantasy outlook here in a second. 195, and that is his listed weight, and actually he's probably 190. If you look at his frame, he's got a little bit of room to add, but currently he is undersized. Now we know James Cook went in the second round last year despite being under 200 pounds. I think that's the comp that I don't really like, because I think Tyjae is more effective at breaking tackles and running with power and being a little more scheme versatile. But James Cook, once again, went in the second round. And so if that was the case, I think we can say that the NFL may just overlook Tyjae's weight a little bit. Still a concern. It's really tough to get behind sub 200-pound running backs that are coming out of the group of five that we don't necessarily know their draft capital yet. But I'm going to talk about why I think it's going to be a little higher than people are projecting. Let's get into the scouting report. So strengths: natural hands, spatial awareness, shiftiness, burst, vision, long speed. Pretty much everything you're looking for in a running back. Weaknesses: size, and I will add to this, I think the level of competition should be deemed a weakness, and not his fault by any means. Tyjae, coming out of high school, he was a late bloomer in high school as well. So he I believe didn't really get a whole lot of playing time until his senior year, where he kind of exploded onto the scene, earned him a 3-star 24/7 sports rating. but he didn't get any Power 5 offers, and I think most of that was due to the fact that he just didn't get on the field as a sophomore or a junior. So I don't think a lot of people saw him, but I think that, if Tyjae was on a Power 5 team this year, I think he would have done something similar, right? But it's worth noting that that's not what happened. That was not the case. So we should acknowledge that, and say that that's also a weakness. But let's get into his strengths because once again, Tyjae was one of my favorite watches. He is currently sitting inside my top 5 running backs. He is my RB5. Things are fluid right now, so that's not like a definite, but that's how highly I think of him. Natural hands, I already kind of talked about that. He can get upfield, he can make tough contested catches. He's got and there's a naturalness to it, right? So like some running backs catch the ball with their chest or they're just you can tell that they're uncomfortable doing it. Tyjae catches the ball like a wide receiver more often than not. So I think that that's going to be a strength. And when you're projecting a 195-pound running back to the NFL level, you need that, and he has that. Spatial awareness. So I'll just tie this with shiftiness. Tyjae is, remarkable in a phone booth, and what that means is when he's got an oncoming tackler, he can make them miss no matter how close they are, no matter how, tough they're running at him. He decides very, very quickly if he wants to run through them or run around them, and he can do both. He can do both. Now again, once again, this is a group of 5 running back. I don't know that that contact balance is 100% translatable, but there's a reason he was top 5 in yards after contact. He breaks a lot of tackles because he is able to kinda angle his body. He reminds me of, like, honestly, I haven't done a Zach Charbonnet one of these yet, but Zach Charbonnet kinda angles his body in a way that even if a guy tries to square him up, they're gonna fail. Obviously, Charbonnet's got a lot more weight to him and can break tackles easier, but Tyjae does a really good job in evading tackles, and even if they get a hand on him, he's probably breaking that tackle. And then shiftiness, his lateral agility is pretty remarkable, and arguably it's in the top 3 in the class. Like I would put him and Bajan and Jameer probably in that tier in terms of shiftiness and what they're able to do side to side. And that stuff's important. Once again, Tyjae, he ran between the tackles. It wasn't like he's just running outside zone and he's using his speed. He is very, very refined within the tackles. In fact, about half of his snaps were zone scheme and half of them were gap scheme. The zone stuff wasn't always outside though, so most of his running was between the tackles. That's gonna be important at his projection to the NFL level. Burst, you tie the shiftiness with the burst, but when he's coming out of a lateral cut, he is able to get right back upfield, and that is consistent throughout all of his film. I watched a ton of games on him just because I wanted to make sure with G5 running backs, you have to make sure, and I'll tell you, like, it's every game. He just really never takes a play off. You can tell how badly he wants it. He's gonna go compete at the Senior Bowl here in a couple of weeks, and I think he's gonna turn some heads. I've been talking with a few people. I think there's a chance that he goes in the top 100 in the NFL draft because I think some team is gonna say, "Okay, we know what our offense is. We missed out on a couple of the top guys. Let's go get Tyjae here in the 3rd round." And I think that he could legitimately be drafted that highly. He's going to get a Senior Bowl boost because I do think he's going to show off his pass blocking, which I think is really good outside of, his frame's small, so he can't take on a defensive end, consistently head on. It's just not going to work. But, tech technique wise, I think that he's there and he definitely understands where rushes are coming from, and that is most of the problem with pass blocking with these guys. So vision. So talked about that a little bit, but his vision between the tackles is remarkable. He is able to kind of manipulate the 2nd and 3rd level of the defense before they even get there. And then he's able to, combine all of these things together. His spatial awareness, his shiftiness, his burst, and he's able to get chunk runs. He had a ton of big plays. I think he had 35 runs of 10 or more yards, which ranked in the top 30 in college football this year. So just if you name a stat, he's probably up near the top of college football. And then long speed. I think that Tyjae, his speed score might not be the best thing in the world just because of the weight. Now, if he's able to put on 5 pounds, I think people are talking about him a lot differently and that he's a top 75 pick then. And maybe he's getting drafted over guys that you've actually heard of. I think that's going to happen anyway, but just a remarkable guy when he's out in space. So he creates all of that space with all of these different tools that he has, and then he's able to kind of finish the job. So I love Tyjae Spears. The comp that I was talking about, James Cook is being thrown out there a lot. I think that when you look at the size and when you look at how they run, I can understand that. And I think the NFL is gonna view him similar to the way they viewed James Cook, and I believe he went top 60. Um, I just Tyjae stands out a lot more than James Cook did. I have him, I think, 2 points higher, because I keep a master list, and so my final grade on James Cook is 2 points lower than Tyjae, and his grade isn't complete because I have one more little production thing that I'm kinda waiting for some testing for. So, Tyjae is gonna finish higher than James Cook, who went high. I think he's a better runner. I think he's better between the tackles. I think he's better out in space. I think that ultimately we're looking at a guy that could be very fantasy relevant. And that is kind of, I'm sure, what you're here for. I think that in Dynasty, snagging him in the second round, in the middle of the second round, give me all of that. People are going to be nervous. It's a group of 5 running back. Um, we got burned by Kenneth Gainwell a little bit. They're a little different because Kenneth Gainwell, I don't think he tested very well, or he didn't test at all. I can't remember actually off the top of my head, but Tyjae is going to impress at every level. And if you read about him, he's a high character guy. He's going to stand out in interviews, and some team is going to say, I need that kid on my team, if only for the mentality and if only to be a pass catcher. Maybe he assumes a third down role at first. Maybe it's like a Naheem Hines type of role, like for the Colts when he actually got used. But I think that he can succeed in that, and I think that he will work his way into more snaps. I think that he's not gonna be a workhorse at the NFL level. That's never gonna be the case, but he's gonna be efficient with his touches. And so an Austin Eckler type of role for him where he does get involved in the passing game, I think you'd be really happy with that. And I will currently, if you're drafting before the NFL draft, I would definitely take a shot on him in the second over a lot of guys. So I love Tyjae Spears. Let me know what you think of Tyjae Spears. Let me know what you think of this video or who you want to hear about next. Like I said, we do these things every week, so just let me know who you want me to talk about. Thank you guys for watching. We'll talk to you guys next time.